They thought the German Shepherd was becoming aggressive with their son. They were completely wrong. The sound a dog makes when it presses its muzzle against a toddler's face and holds it there is not a sound. It is a silence so specific it stops every other thought in the room. Marcus and Delia Ostrowski had owned Onyx since he was 9 weeks old. A German Shepherd with a working line build, 78 pounds at 4 years old. The kind of dog neighbors crossed the street to avoid even though he had never in his life broken skin. He was methodical, patient in the way that large, intelligent dogs learn to be when they live with people who understand them. He was the first thing Marcus saw in the morning and the last thing he checked before locking the front door at night. Then Eli arrived, 18 months old, blonde, loud in the way only toddlers are loud, the pitch of delight and frustration indistinguishable to anyone outside the family. Onyx had adjusted with the economy of an animal that had already decided. He kept distance the first 2 weeks. He watched. He catalogued. By the 3rd week he had positioned himself at the edge of wherever Eli was, close enough to monitor, far enough to not crowd. It worked. It was working. Until it stopped working. The first morning it happened, Eli was on the playroom floor, reaching for a shape sorter block that had rolled just past his reach. Small frustration, the beginning of a small cry. Onyx came from the hallway at a pace Delia had never seen in 4 years. Not running, something more deliberate than running. He lowered himself until his muzzle was 6 inches from Eli's face and held it there. His nose worked in 3 slow pulls. Eli screamed. Onyx did not flinch. He held his position, that black jaw level with the boy's open crying mouth, his eyes closed slightly, focused entirely inward. Delia pulled him back by the collar. He came away easily. That was the thing that didn't fit. A dog in an aggressive state does not come away easily. But she filed that thought under later and focused on what she had seen, which was a 78-pound working line dog pressing his face into her son's face while her son screamed. She called her sister. Her sister said what she expected. He's testing the baby. She called their vet. The vet said resource guarding was common when a new child disrupted a dog's perceived hierarchy. She nodded at the phone. She had read 3 articles about this. She had a framework. She had an answer. She was using the wrong answer. It happened twice more over the following 3 days. Each time Eli began to cry, Onyx came. Each time he pressed that muzzle toward the boy's face. Each time the people in the room felt the wrongness of it and moved to stop it. Each time Onyx complied, stepped back, sat, watched, then came back. The pattern was not aggression. Aggression escalates. This escalated in frequency, but not in any quality that resembled threat. Onyx never made a sound, never showed teeth, never positioned his weight forward the way a dog preparing to bite will always, without exception, position its weight forward. Marcus noticed that on the 4th night, he stood in the doorway and watched Onyx lower his face toward Eli for 40 seconds and tried to describe what he was actually seeing rather than what he was afraid of. He is not angled forward. His tail is down but still. His mouth is open but not taut. He is inhaling. Every time, he presses his nose toward the boy's mouth and he inhales. He mentioned it to Delia. She said, I know. What does it mean? Neither of them knew what it meant, but they had already called Marcus's brother, who had land outside the city, who had said yes without being asked twice. Onyx was going Tuesday. Monday night, at 11:40 p.m., Eli cried out from his room. Not his usual cry, something thinner, less formed, the cry of a child calling from somewhere far below the surface of normal distress. Delia went to him. She turned on the lamp. Eli was sitting up in the crib, arms raised toward her, crying but slowly, as if the energy for it was diminished. She picked him up and felt it immediately, the limpness that wasn't sleep, the strange warmth across his forehead that did not feel like fever, the small body that was present but somehow absent. She stood in the nursery holding her son and could not name what she was feeling except that it was wrong. Subscribe now if you stay for stories about what animals know before we do. You are in exactly the right place. Onyx hit the bedroom door at 11:52. Not scratching. Impact. The deliberate full body weight of an animal that has been trying a locked door long enough to know scratching will not open it. Marcus was up before the second impact. He opened the door. Onyx moved past him without looking, down the hall, into the nursery, paws on the crib rail, nose to Eli's face, the same motion, the same terrible specific silence. Marcus called 911 at 11:54. In the ambulance, Eli's blood glucose registered at 34 milligrams per deciliter. The normal floor for a toddler is 70. At 34, the brain begins its rationing sequence. Organs receive less. Time matters differently at 34 than it does at 70. Drive Priya Venkatesh. Pediatric endocrinology. 10 years in emergency practice. Later told them that Eli had a congenital disorder of glucose metabolism. His insulin response was misfiring in a pattern that would have gone undetected for months without the presentation they had brought him in with. She looked at them directly across a table in a consultation room that smelled of recycled air and said, "Another 11 minutes at that level, and we would be managing a different kind of conversation entirely. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. Every one of those stories deserves to be heard. A German Shepherd's olfactory system contains approximately 225 million scent receptors. A human nose contains 5 million. During hypoglycemic episodes, the body metabolizes fat at an accelerated rate and releases a compound called isoprene through exhaled breath. The concentration shift is measurable in parts per trillion. A trained medical alert dog can detect this shift 22 minutes before a glucometer reading confirms it. Onyx had never been trained for anything except basic obedience and the reliable company of one family. He had simply been paying attention. The muzzle pressed toward Eli's open, crying mouth each time the glucose dropped. Not aggression. Breath chemistry, the insistence, the return, the refusal to stop despite being pulled back each time. Not fixation. An alarm without a language for the word alarm. The impact against the bedroom door at 11:52. Not anxiety. The last available option for an animal that had been locked out of the room where the emergency was unfolding. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Onyx came home on a Wednesday. He walked through the front door, turned left into the hallway, went to Eli's room, and lay down on the floor beside the crib. He put his chin on his paws. Eli leaned against the crib rail and looked at him through the slats with the calm of a child who has found the exact right thing to look at. The small oval monitor on Eli's arm blinked green in the dark. Onyx watched it the way he watched everything now, without blinking, like a thing that understood exactly what it was watching and had decided, with the full weight of every instinct available to it, that it would not look away.